is unconventional. What is conventional anyway? As long as it tastes nice, what your unconventional cooking looks like. Ciao, I hope you're well. If you fancy doing something different with aubergine, maybe you will like my idea. I have removed the middle, I'll show you, from an aubergine already as a tester, and you can see that it's very hollow, and here is the middle part. There are also a few little bits which are already put in a pan. I'm going to be doing one together with you now, and I will be stuffing them and putting them in the oven, and it'll be interesting to see what they look like at the end. Having done one, I'll show you what I've done now, and I've got here a normal knife and measure the length of the aubergine, and I'll then go inside and I'll go all the way through to where my thumb is, without piercing the aubergine, of course, or trying to anyway. And I'll do that for all sides 4 times. Make sure you keep your hand out of the way, of course. Perfect. Having scored the 4 sides, I go back in with the knife and I now make a circle. And this piece has already come out. And literally go in with your knife and start turning the aubergine around rather than the knife, so that the knife is always at the base, and work your way in until you get to the end. I've used a combination of fork and teaspoons or spoons, and gently start removing the inner part of the aubergine. To make it easy on myself, what I've done as well, I've pushed with my thumbs to just loosen it up on the inside, so that it's not going to be too difficult to detach it. And if you look, quite a lot is coming just with the fork. And actually I found that the fork is very useful, because you can get hold of it and pull it away. Perfect! After a couple of minutes, aubergine number 2 is also completed, and here is its head as well, which is still intact. I want to keep the heads as there will be a cap, so I will just cut myself a little piece here. And I'll do the same from the second aubergine. And I will chop the rest into little pieces, as they will be effectively making part of the filling in a moment. This is a different way of doing a video, but I will add a little salt inside the aubergine, and I'll give it a good mix. And maybe using my hands I will also scrub the inside. And I'll do the same with the second one. And I'll pour some olive oil inside. Also some in my hand, and rub it on the inside of the aubergine. And I'll do exactly the same with the second one. I'll place them on a baking tray, and I will pop them in the oven for 20 minutes at 180 degrees. But I will not put these in the oven. I will keep them aside for later. They'll go in the oven later. Perfect, the aubergines are in the oven, and in the meantime I'll work on the stuffing, and I'll do a Sicilian-style stuffing, not too dissimilar if I was making meatballs, but I'm using the inner from the aubergine as well, of course. I'll start with the little aubergine pieces first, and I'm adding some oil and in a pan, and I'm gonna heat them up first. As soon as they start sizzling, I'll put the lid on and I'll turn the temperature down to a medium. I'm now chopping a small onion into little chunks. I have the last 2 large mushrooms in the fridge, so I decided to throw them in as well. But I will chop these into small pieces as well though. You don't know how to use mushrooms, so it's entirely up to you, especially if you don't like them. This is my personal choice, but any vegetables of your choice, you could put a carrot in if you like, or some celery, entirely up to you really. So after a few minutes the aubergines are pretty much done, and I will be adding the onions and also the mushrooms at the same time. I'll turn the temperature slightly up, and I will leave the lid off, and I'll let them sizzle for a good couple of minutes. Perfect. As soon as the onions are soft and the mushrooms have shrunk, I will be adding some mince. This is beef mince. And break it up and mix it with the vegetables. Once the meat is brown, I will be adding some white wine. This is dry and only very little. As soon as the alcohol from the wine evaporates, turn it off and pour it in a bowl to cool down for a few minutes. In the meantime, I will continue with the other ingredients, and here I've got a mozzarella which I'm now chopping into little cubes. Very optional, but I've got 4 slices of ham which I'm rolling together, and again I will be chopping them into tiny little slices. And I'll be chopping also a handful of fresh basil. And I will add everything to the mince and the vegetables. I'm now adding some Parmesan cheese, but if you don't like Parmesan or you prefer different cheese, by all means you can add cheddar or Edam, whatever is your preference. And I mix everything together to see what it looks like initially. I will be adding an egg next, and it's cold enough for it not to cook it. So in it goes. A pinch of salt, some pepper. Last thing I'll be doing is to add some breadcrumbs, but before I do that I want to have a feel of the consistency, as I do not want it to be too dry. And I will add a couple of tablespoons to start with, to see how it goes. But the smell coming up is promising and the noise is also very nice. It's still a little bit sloppy, so I think I will add a third one, but not too full this time, and that should be enough. Yes, definitely, I can see that it's coming together. Aubergines are out of the oven, and I have to say I'm really impressed and pleased with them. They are been cooling down now for about 10 minutes, so I can touch them safely, and they have retained their shape, and they are actually very, very nice, and they are just as I wanted them. And as suspected, and there isn't an elegant way of doing this. I did try with a spoon, but I wasn't getting on very well, so I decided to go native and use my hands instead. And actually it's much better, because you can push the mince all the way and fill all of the gaps inside, and you can feel it with your left hand that actually is working. And that's aubergine number 1 stuffed. And aubergine number 2 is also completed. Remember the caps from earlier? I'm gonna be placing them inside, best you can really. It's mostly presentational really, and they will go back in the oven anyway, so they will cook. I've got a little passata left from another dish I cooked the other day, and I'm now gonna be placing it at the bottom of my baking tin. You do not have to do this step, but if you want to add some passata, by all means do so. And I'll put my aubergine on top of my tomato sauce. I have a little bit of the filling left over, so what I'm going to do, make a couple of meatballs. I will add a little bit more breadcrumbs though, because they is a little bit too liquidy otherwise. For a change, I decided to make them into little mini burgers, and I'm actually placing a couple straight behind the aubergines on the back, the bum, just in case there is any leakage, and they will be holding the fort. And they're ready to go back in the oven. I will cover them with tin foil, mostly because I do not want the passata to dry too much, and I'll pop them back in for approximately 15 minutes, that is 15, at again 180 degrees, and see what they look like. But everything is cooked, it's just a matter of getting everything cooking together now. See you in 15. And here they are. I cooked them for a further 5 minutes, but under the grill. Remove the tin foil, and I put a little cheese on top of my mini burger so that they would melt and look even better. I will let them cool down for 5 minutes before I serve them on a plate, and then otherwise I think they will fall apart, and then we'll see what we've done. And I've just finished serving them up and rearranged them, and they look really nice. I'm going to try some, but I'm really struggled to see why they would not taste nice. Everything is nice, and everything goes together, so it should be a success really. I'm going to chop a little bit from this corn. I want to make sure that I catch some aubergine as well, and I'll try it. I should say this is not a standard recipe. Somebody might argue that it's unconventional, but what is conventional anyway? And everything was unconventional until it was done for the first time. So what it matters, and as long as it tastes nice, it's okay. And it tastes delicious, as predicted. It's absolutely wonderful. If you get the opportunity to make it or something similar, it would be great. And maybe you can share. I've got actually a Facebook page. I'll put it at the bottom in the description. Maybe you can share some of your videos to see what your unconventional cooking looks like. Ciao ciao, thank you for watching, see you later, bye.